there, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Julia McNeil Crafts. So it's time for another Dawn and Julia Create, and it's our lovely Dawn that set the challenge. So today we are making a canvas. So I've got one here. It's kind of about A4 size, I think. Just slightly bigger, because it was the only one I could find. And we are to use Dawn's Collage papers. A stamp set of our choice, and I've gone for this because these collage papers are very floral. I have this sort of idea that we could put her down and then extend her hair and put flowers in her hair. That's what's currently in my head. How quite we go about that, I don't know. But yeah, that is my initial plan. So we've got that. We're also allowed to use watercolours. I haven't got mine out yet because we're not quite at that stage. We're allowed a gesso, a black pen, and a stamp. Oh, I've said stamp set of my choice. Yeah. So that's us. One thing I am quite surprised about, I have to say, is there's nothing for texture, which is just not very Dawn. So I'm sitting there going, how am I going to put texture? I'm trying to work out. We're allowed one embellishment of our choice. Now, does that mean like one or one type of embellishment? I really don't know. I really do not know. Right, so I'm going to try stamping directly onto the canvas, but in all honesty, I'm not sure how this is going to work. So I'm presuming if we've got stamps, we're allowed paper to stamp onto. That's actually not too bad. So I've got, this is, oh, she's also not said about the type of inks. I've just automatically gone in there. Have I got to stick to black? Oh, I'll cover that anyway. Right, I'm not sure if I've got to stick to black, because she didn't actually say about ink. She said a stamp set of your choice, but then she didn't say what to stamp it with. Right, what I will do then is, because I'm not sure if that's allowed, I'm presuming I'm allowed paper, because if you are going to be stamping, you need something to stamp on. So, what I've got here is just some copier paper, nothing fancy there, and I'm presuming I'm allowed that. I should have clarified really before I started working on it, but hey ho. Right, what I'm going to do is just make a text paper background. Actually, I could probably, oh, that's what I'll do. That's how I'll get my texture. These aren't sticking very well to the bowl. Maybe I just meant to, I'll just use my hand. Very strange. Right, so I'm just going to create a very uneven text background, because I just want something for detail. And then if I grab my watercolours, I can put a bit of a wash on it, which is because this is copier paper, it's going to wrinkle up quite a bit. And then I should be able to put it down slightly more textured. Now I'm wanting to go for a bit of a vintage feel, so I've got, these are my decadent pies. This is Prima. We've got some nice sort of vintagey tones there. So I am going to go with those. And let's just get a big wash of colour over here. As I said, this is just going to be part of my background, so I'm not looking for perfection at all. Don't know whether I should have allowed that to set a little bit. I'm just going to put something underneath. Here we go. Just to protect my table. Well, it's not really a table, to be honest, it's just mount board. But my actual thing that I used to use to protect my table is well and truly wrecked and not very white anymore. That's a bit too browny, I didn't really want that colour. So we'll not put that one on again. I'll tone it down with some of these yellows. As I say, I'm wanting it to wrinkle up like that, because that is going to give me something to create texture with. And as I said, I think this is allowed because if you were to have stamps, then I presume you need something to stamp on. I don't know. I might be on the naughty step. What do you reckon? Do you reckon we're on the naughty step? See, because she also didn't say ink, so this is where I'm going with that. She also didn't say an ink pad. Well, I don't think she did. Maybe I'll double check before I sort of start slandering her, because that would just be rude. Before I start doing that, I will double check my text. So once this is wet, got wet and dry, and I'm starting to stick it on, I might make a couple of sheets of these actually, but once you've seen me make one, I'll just do the others off camera. And then while I'm off camera, I will double check to see Dawn's message. I did check it before I started filming, but right now I can't remember. See that bit, that little rusty bit doesn't look so bad now. I'm going to bring some more of it in. Doesn't look so bad now I've got the other colours in. So this is a bit like, if I was to make paper flowers, I quite often like making them out of copier paper, you know, like stamping on copier paper and then getting the copier paper quite wet, because when you shape it and stuff, they go back, once they dry, they go like really crispy and they have the most amazing texture. So you don't often need like your fancy. I'm just going to give that a good crunkle. And I don't want it to dry overly well. Well, I want it to dry, but I don't want to get it overly straight. I want to keep it sort of crunkled like that. And then I'm going to heat set it. Well, as I say, I'll just do this once, but I'll maybe make about 3 sheets like this. And then while I'm making it, I will go and double check the text messages just to make sure. I don't think I'm breaking rules. To be honest, Dawn is absolutely lovely. So the pair of us, we always go on about being on the naughty step and winding each other up and whatnot. But you know, we're both very lovely. We wouldn't actually be that mean. I mean, I say I'm lovely. I still keep going on about Snot Green Gate, but like, you know, it's meant in fun. Dawn loves it really. So look at that. Now we've got something to create texture with. Yay! And when this is dry, as I said, it goes really, really crispy. And I do find this is the one occasion where I would force dry it. And I do the same when I'm making paper flowers out of copier paper as well. I force dry it, and it just seems to go so much more crispier. And once it's done, it's such a strong, you wouldn't believe it's copier paper that has been soaked in water, because when it re-dries, it's so strong. Right, I think that's done. As I say, I'm going to make another 2 of those. You don't need to see me do it again, so I'll make another 2 of those, and I will check my phone, check the message the lovely Dawn has sent me, and then we'll work out what we're doing from there. Okay, so that's that, and I will be back in a mo. Okay, so I am back. I've double checked the message and Dawn hasn't said anything about ink or about paper, so I'm presuming that you can't stamp without an ink pad and you can't stamp without paper to stamp on. So I'm presuming that we're all okay. So I'm now going to create some bits and pieces with this paper, and I'm going to get it stuck down, and it does make it to my madness, I promise. I'm going to roll this back a little bit. And I've also cut out some of Dawn's fussy cut flowers here, and I'm just going to pop them behind. So yeah, I'm just going to gradually build this up. This is going to be my background layer, and then this is what's going to be the background of our girl. And yeah, can't find the best brush for this actually. I think quite a few of my brushes are needing washed, so maybe next time I go off camera I will sort the brush situation out. So I've got a little bit of gel medium. This is the Pretty Gets Gritty one. And I'm just going to stick all of this down with gel medium. And I've just realised that Dawn has said that you can use gesso, and I bet she will use her 13 Arts gesso. Not sure whether it'll be black or white, it depends what image she's gone for. But she will use her 13 Arts gesso and add texture that way. Because I was thinking it's not like Dawn. Dawn loves her texture, so I was thinking it's not like Dawn that we've got nothing. Nothing for creating texture with. It's like, yeah. It's a bit like I was doing a live last night and people were saying, oh, like if you hadn't put dangles on that, we'd have been concerned that someone had actually stolen our Julia. And yeah, it would be the similar sort of idea with Dawn. If there'd been no texture, you'd be like, right, what have you done with Dawn? Who are you and what have you done with her? Right, so I'm just going to slap a load of, as I said, really not got the best brush for this, slap a load of gel medium down here, and I'm just going to stick this page on as a whole, and I'll piece other bits into it. It's great. Gel medium is brilliant. It literally sticks anything to anything, even though we're working with papers and we could have managed another glue. I'm sort of wanting coverage all over, so it's cheaper doing that with my gel medium like this than using my little tonic glue things that I like. Now, I should have ripped the edges of that, but I can do it after because it's overlapping, so we're all good. And so just sort of pulling those bits back has just added a little bit of extra texture and things. Right, so let's rip these bits up. Take, after what I just said, I'm not going to take the edges off. I want them, I don't want any straight edges. Right, so I'm going to do these bits more sort of gradually torn down. Hopefully I've got enough of these. I've got a few of these little, so these things are just sort of going to peek out here and there. Oh, that's somebody coming through the door. It'll be my husband. It's not like random people walk into my house, but if there's a bang, that's why. And it also lets him know to be quiet as he comes in. In fact, you can hear me talking to myself. It is a bizarre thing, because it's like, yeah, I'm just talking to you guys and it makes sense as you're watching it, but as I'm just sitting here in the house by myself chatting away, it is a bit random. Right, so we'll get that in there. Like so. Am I about to be shown something? Oh, he's using something. Paper, I don't know. Paper trimmer. See, it's handy having a crafter as a wife. Comes in handy. Did you hear that giggle? See, there was another person in the room. Right, there we go. Just going to squidge some of these bits even more than they are currently squidged. I'm just trying to get loads of texture down. And say we will gesso some bits and pieces as well. But I am glad, because I was thinking, oh my goodness, my canvas is going to be so flat and I have no idea how to. But I've managed to work around that dilemma, so that's all good. That's all good. It's almost like a rice paper, this. It's not, because it's not thin enough and it's not got that transparency, but I can sort of build a little bit as though it was. Trying to sort of give even more texture around where the roses are, or carnations they actually are, so that it sort of makes sense that they're peeping through. Right, let's just have a big bit down there. Means the text is going the opposite way, but you know, I can live with that. I'm going to put gel medium on both the canvas of what it's sticking to and the back of the actual paper as well. Right. And then I'm going to gesso all over this. I'm going to do it partially with clear gesso, transparent gesso, and partially with white gesso. I'm going to use my 13 Arts now that I've thought about that, because that's exactly what Dawn will have done. That's exactly how she will have got texture in. She'll have probably just got a palette knife and splodged bits about. So yeah, I'm going to do that in certain areas, and I'm going to have some of this knocked back and some of it kept as it is. It just looks such a random mess right now, doesn't it? Right, we kind of need a little bit of a flower over here to balance that, which means I need another bit of paper. So it looks like it's peeking out from somewhere. So yeah, I like it so it looks like it's peeking out. There we go. What a mess. I love it, but it's an utter mess. Right. Do you know, when I first read the brief, I was just like, oh my goodness, there doesn't feel like there's enough. Like what I've given Dawn to do next time. It's like this massive list. It's like, just in case. Right, that's a bit white, but we can sort that later because we can add colour after as well. So this is just the basic layer for getting lots of texture on here. I'm just keeping going. Just keeping going. Who would believe that this is just copier paper, eh? I love that about crafting, that you can take things like copier paper and things like that and just completely transform it. More gesso on there. Right. Do we need any more? Just peeking up and pop on there. Okay. Yeah, so that says covered all of that. It's looking quite good. I think we maybe need a little bit more. Beer, something going on there. I'm just gonna a little bit of canvas showing. Okay, so that is that to that stage. Oh wow, I can't believe I've gone from, oh my goodness, how am I going to get texture on this page, to having something that's quite as mad as that. That is just a bit crazy. Right, I'm going to let that dry ever so slightly, not hugely, but I'm just going to grab my gessos. Don't have a huge amount of my 13 Arts gesso left. Apparently it's quite tricky to get hold of now since Brexit, if you're in the UK. If you're in Europe then it's fine, you should be able to get it, no bother. This is clear gesso, so I'm just putting a layer of that everywhere. I'm going to use my Dina Wakeley brush because it's a nice wide brush and it just gets the job done quicker. And I very rarely use this brush because I'm a little bit in love with it and I'm afraid of wrecking it, but what's the point in having tools that you don't use? So let's just get all of that covered, and then we'll be a little bit more. So I'm just wanting to make sure everything has a really good coverage of gesso, because we're going to need this. I think we'll probably end up adding, because a bit more watercolour and maybe some darker sepia tones, just it will bring out that texture even more. It'll go in between all the wrinkles and bits and pieces, and it'll just make it look even better and even more textured. So we will be doing that, but to do that and to get a nice even coverage and not to damage this paper any further, because basically we have damaged it, but it's damaging it that's giving it that gorgeous effect. I'm just going to pull this. I've kind of lost Mind you, we'll probably have a face going over there, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. Right, now I'm going to grab my palette knife and I'm just going to put some chunks of this in various places. As I said, partially because it's going to add texture. I will brush some of that out to soften it a little bit. Partially just to give us a variation in colour, because we're going to have contrast then between the colours. So I will just allow some of that to be knocked back a little bit. Not all of it. Kind of knocked it back a bit further than I was intending, but hey ho. Right, so we've got that there. I'm going to go in with my palette knife in just a minute. Just some of those bits that are a bit thicker. Right, so that is that. I am now going to let that dry. I'm going to clean my brushes, get some fresh water, grab myself a cup of tea, and then what we will do is we will stamp out our gorgeous lady, do some watercolouring effects, get all the elements ready for building this when we're at the next stage. But I'm just going to, because it's going to need a good long section of time to dry properly now. Okay, so I have stamped out my girl. To be honest, very strange stamps. So these are Stamperia stamps, but they've just got like a foam backing that's not sticky, so it doesn't stick to your acrylic blocks. So I just have to sort of do it freehand, so it's not the best stamping in the world. So I'll have to sort of read the instruction. I've got three, I'll show you them. I've got three different watercolour palettes here. So I've got my favourite Jane Davenport, the bright one. I have got the one that I was using earlier. This is Prima Decadent Pies. The reason I've got that is because we're doing skin tones, and that's actually the reason I bought that palette. And then I've got the Glitzy Sea palette from Jane Davenport as well. So got a few different palettes there. And I'm going to gradually just paint her up. So we'll see how much of this I do in real time and how much I do in speed up. So I'm just actually going to put a very, I'm not soaking this. This is like a damp brush, but I'm just getting the water. Oops, she says that, and having just put loads on there. This is just getting some water on the areas that I want to colour, because it will just allow the movement to be better. We're less likely to get harsh lines and stuff because it will move within the water. But as I said, because it's doing skin, I'm not doing like a, I'm normally very heavy handed with water, but that's not technically how we should be doing it. So this is the first colour. I'm just going to lay that down and then we'll blend in some different colours. So this is a Dolly Dimples mixed media card. There seems to be some sort of black fluff on my paper. I don't know if it's come from a jumper or something. It's very strange. So we're going to get that in. We will build the colour up. But I'm just getting the first layer on all over the face. It's the same, if I was colouring with alcohol markers, I'd be doing exactly the same, sort of putting in all over. I tend to put in the palest skin tone colour, get that everywhere first, and I gradually build up. I'm going to have to build up quite a bit because I've used a black ink pad to stamp her. They've sort of helped you with the shading by doing some sort of cross hatching on the darker areas of the skin. But of course that's black and it's really, really noticeable. So to make that all look a bit more natural, we are going to have to go quite dark with the skin tones, but that's okay. So it's also a lesson in don't be afraid of your shadow area. Sometimes we can be afraid, especially when it comes to skin colours. But she looks ridiculous right now because we've got this black coming right into here. So unless we build up the skin tones, that's just going to look very, very strange. but working with an image like this is pretty good practice at doing that. So I will build up as far as we can go, but then it will get to the stage where we will need to sort of let it dry. I'm going to go in with a darker brown now, and I'm just going to get like the hairline there, so anywhere where there'd be shadow, so there'd be shadow by the hairline. I'm going to bring it in. We're going to try and get some blush on that as well, really soften those black lines they've given us. But the reason that they've given us those is because there's a curl of hair just here, and so there would be shadow behind that curl of hair. So sometimes studying images like this where they've almost given you a grayscale look is a really good way of sort of learning a little bit more about shadows and things like that. So we'll get that darker colour in. Again, there's going to be lots of shadows around the neck because the head is in front and it's going to be blocking the light. Basically you're blocking the light. And that's where you're going to see the shadow, anywhere where the light's blocked. So I don't know if you can see, like if you look just there, that is a very, very dark shade of grey. It's verging on black, and yet the reality is that item is a white piece of paper. But as soon as you've got something in front of it, it goes really dark. You can see that there. And that's why we do our shading, because it's that that makes it look realistic. So even when I colour whites, I will end up putting some sort of tone in there, normally sort of like either a blue or a grey or something like that. So I'm just getting those shadow areas in, then I might go in with the base colour and sort of blend the two together again. Might give her some coloured makeup in a little bit. So I'm just going to take the original colour that we had, but slightly stronger because I had it quite watered out. I'll take that and I'm just going to blend those two together a little bit. I've got to be careful she doesn't end up looking too orangey. Sometimes the face, when you're doing it without the context of the hair and the outfit, it can end up looking sort of like really orangey and you're like, oh my goodness, what have I done? Sometimes just be patient and let the rest of the image come. As I said, I'm gonna just sort of, there's more work to be done on the face yet, but these layers sort of need to dry because they're all going to sort of puddle and bleed into each other, and I'll also risk slightly pilling. This is a mixed media card, so it will take quite a bit of abuse. So I'm pretty confident in the card, but still, you know, it is at the end of the day card. So, you know, right, let's see, what colour hair should we give her? Quite fancy going really dark. I'm going to start off, I think, with an undertone of brown. Just put a wash over it. That's not the colour I want. I really fancy some of these dark inks and purples. I think we need our hair quite, I want it quite dark, I think, because I want it to contrast with all the flowers and things that we're going to put in. Oh, just noticed we've got an ear there. Got an ear that I've missed. Let's just get that coloured in. I'll not do the shading with that now because we're going to end up pulling in the colour of that, of the hair. We'll fix that a bit later. So let's get this hair coloured down. So this is almost like the undertone or the base. It's not where we're going with here, but we're just getting something down. Oops, a bit heavy-handed with the water there. Right, I'm not too worried about the cogs. I can paint them on top of them after. Plus, I think a lot of the hair is going to end up getting covered up because we're almost going to have lots of flowers coming from our hair. So we're going to lose quite a bit of this as well. It's kind of like this, our starting point. That's the thing, if you go in quite heavy-handed with your watercolours, never be afraid, you can lift it with water very, very easy. So that's what I was doing. I was just getting a bit more water on my brush so that I can move it. But I also can just do something as simple as that and we lift quite a bit. So watercolours are one of the most forgiving mediums that you can use. You wouldn't get the same lift if you were using like your alcohol markers or acrylics or something like that. So that's a really good place to start. I'm no watercolour artist by any means. I'd probably sit there with their head in their hands watching me because it's like I know I load far too much water on than you should. but you know, works for me. And that, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about doing it in a way that works for you and that you're having fun. Right. So I'm going to try bringing in some of these. I think these are like purples and dark blues, and I'm just going to try and get some of these shadow areas with those colours. She'll have like really dark hair by the time we've finished, but again, this is about building up hues and layers, same as you do with other things. It's about sort of gradually building it up, and we are going to go through some quite ugly stages with her before we get her looking absolutely gorgeous, but that's okay. Just be patient, trust the process, enjoy it. If it's not right, it's not the end. Okay, I think we're going to have to go dark in her skin as well, because as I said, we've still got this sort of very strange black shadowing going on. I'm not sure that I'm a big fan of it when stamps do that, to be honest. I don't tend to do that in my stamps, but that's, I think I like having the freedom to colour. What do you think? Do you like it when stamps have that extra shadowing in for you, or do you kind of look at it and think, what on earth? I remember buying stamps once from, it was QVC at the time. I'm going really dark now. I'm using the same colour that I used for her hair into the shadow areas of her skin, because, like, as I said, we've got some really strong shadowing going on because we've used the black ink pad. I maybe should have used grey, to be honest, but never mind. I'm trying to stick to the brief, and the brief didn't mention ink pads, so I'm just sort of using the same ink pad for everything. But I think we're going to need to gradually pull that out, just so it makes sense. But to see now, her face definitely looks a lot less orangey. It was looking quite orangey, but it looks a lot less orangey now that we've got some hair in. Right, I think I'm going to have to stop playing with that now. It's getting to the stage where we're needing to sort of let it dry a little bit. I'm just going to add some pink to that cheek. Get a bit of blush going on. See if that'll. It's just getting a bit wet and a bit full now, and it's just pilling ever so slightly. But I have really worked it, so you know, that's just one of those things that we can expect. So I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to concentrate on some of these bits over here. But I think what I will do is, I think I've talked enough about the principles behind it, that I will pop you on fast forward. Once I finish the fast forward, I will cut these out, and all the little embellishy bits, and then I'll cut out, not necessarily these flowers, but I'll cut out the flowers that I'm going to use, and then we'll come back and assemble it. So I am just letting my watercolouring dry, but I had a thought that these flowers, and actually when I very first saw them, when Dawn did the release of these, I thought they would work really well for this. But you know the technique that we started off with for getting our papers nice and crunkly, sorry about that. I am going to do the same with these. Now, these do have a slight coating on them. You can see it's sort of bubbling up, so I'm not quite sure how it's going to work, but I'm thinking if we soak these and screw them up like we did, like I did the other things, and then I thought I'll do 2 or 3. Well, I'm going to do all of them, but then we could maybe have, I've really soaked those, honestly. You should see, like, you see it dripping out. Then we'll do the same. So let me take, the trouble is the little, sorry, words are being a problem. So I'll just do this one. I'm thinking if I take 2 or 3 and do this with them and then layer them together, that we're going to end up with the most lovely dimensional flowers, which I think will suit the project. Because we've got this sort of look with the paper in the background, I think having this look with the flowers as well, it is going to work. It's broken down that coating, so I am trying to scrunch it together like that. Flip it over, because see, we get such a nice textured flower then. And as I said, once you do this, it gets very delicate as it's absolutely soaked, but as soon as it's dry, it becomes really robust and very, very crunchy. So I'm just gonna and I'm thinking maybe 2 or 3, and some of them I might layer that I've got like the paler colour and the darker colour together. So I'm just going to have a little play. Basically I'm going to make them all like this. I'll just make one up. And that one's quite dry now. I'll try and do it so that we're mostly seeing the coloured element from the front. I don't really want to be seeing the back. I'm just going to need, sorry, I need 2 hands a second. Right, so I'm going to get that. So once you've done that, they are so robust. And I think it's sort of broken the surface of the paper a little bit, so we've got some like white peeking through, and I think that's made it very distressed looking. And I also am thinking that I might just dry brush a tiny bit of gesso over those as well. And I think it will suit, because the background that we've got is like a lovely soft vintage look. Do be careful with your fingers when you're doing this. That I think that having them look a bit more distressed, look how 3D they look amazing. But the sort of flowers that they are, that carnation, I think it really suits this technique. So I will be sitting, I've completely wrecked my board, it's terrible. Right, yeah, I've got a glass mat out when I'm not worrying about reflections and things. I'm just wanting to show you. Okay. And then I'm thinking that if we put, I need to just dry it a little bit in the centre still. Then maybe if we just layer a couple of those together like so, it is going to be incredibly dimensional. And as I said, we are seeing elements of white in there, which it suits, but if I knock it all back with gesso anyway, that will all just become part of it. So I'm just going to grab a bowl of glue. So I'll make one with you, and then I'm going to make a whole load more. And then you could really get in. As I said, once they have gone through that process of getting wet and then drying, they do just become very, can you hear that? It's like they're so crunchy. How dimensional will that be? Gorgeous. Stick that there. Like so, and I'll just get a bit of, as I said, we are seeing bits of the white, which is unfortunate. I mean, there's a couple of ways around that. You could sort of colour the back with the watercolours, so we could do that, or, which is what I'm thinking I might do, is if we get a little bit of our gesso, just a tiny little bit, and dry brush it, that we're kind of giving that look anyway, and so then the white sits more rather than it jarring, because we've got that element of it. And I just think if I just pull my board in, oh, that's drying, still drying, so if we just pull that in, I think that sits on it much better than that. You can see the contrast there. So I'm just going to make up as many of those as I can from the decoupage kit that I've got. And yeah, I'll be back when we're sort of assembling it all together. Okay, so I have got our lady all coloured up. I'm not thrilled with her, to be honest. I have to say that if I was to colour her again, I would stamp her with either like a grey memento or like a beige one or something, and do no lines colouring. I do think the cross hatching and shit, so yeah, I don't particularly like the way she's ended up, but I'm hoping by the time we get flowers and things in her hair instead. The other thing that I have done, I've got all the little stamped elements that are all cut out. I should probably put them so I can see them. I've also just cut out a couple of the leaves, okay, and that is from this decoupage sheet, so I've sort of stole the leaves from these flowers here. So yeah, I've got that. I'll just stick my lady down. I'm going to use some cardboard just to give her some dimension so she sticks, and then we can start arranging it. And then I may put some, till I had an unsuccessful stamping session there. I may try to decide what to have on as my extra. Part of me wants gold thread, but then I also think it needs a sentiment, so I'm going to have to probably choose one of those, and I'm not quite sure what to choose at this moment in time. So we will see how that goes. Right, let's get that all stuck down. Again, I probably should use the gel medium, but this was to hand. I think it'd be alright. It's mostly just going on paper. We're not actually working. Oh, she says. Let's get the gel medium out. It says it all really, doesn't it? Right. Do it properly. Right. Plenty down. Now this is just to give it a little bit of dimension, so especially as we've got a very dimensional background, just so that we can get it sitting nicely on the project. And then I'm going to gradually build up the flowers and things that we've got from her hair, and we'll see how we go. I do want a bit more. I was going to put a bit of watercolour so we get a bit more of that texture showing, but I'm not sure if we're going to need to do like shading and shadowing behind her, so I kind of want to see how that looks. I may put, I've got some gorgeous gold watercolour from Akira Takegansi Tambi paints, so I might sort of dribble some of those around the edges, but I just kind of want to see how it all plays out first. I'm going to put her there. Right, all of this may need time to dry. Right, I don't like her cheek and things, so I'm going to try, as I said, I'm going to try and cover as much of the bits that I don't like with these flowers that we've got. And another one. Try and work out how that's going to see. As I said, she's sort of, her and the flowers merge into the background, which is why I feel like we're going to need some sort of shadowing. I'm just trying to arrange these, but part of me thinks like little bits of gold thread looking out from the background would be really nice. Now, part of me thinks I could pretend, if you don't tell Dawn, I could pretend that one of the sentiments from her sentiments sheet, that I thought it was part of the collage kit. Reckon we'll get away with that? Oh, sorry Dawn, I thought it was part of the kit. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Right. So I'm trying to cover up her dodgy face, and I kind of want it so it's maybe something along those lines, and then we can start putting some of these stamped images in and around. Also need to do something about, you can't quite see it, but the bottom of that needs sort of fixed. So yeah, I quite like that. Let's start. The thing is, with gel medium we will have wiggle room. I'm also probably going to have to get as far as I can with this today with the gel medium, and then I'll be needing to let it dry, I think, before we start doing shadowing and shading and things, but that's alright. That's alright. Hopefully in a few hours would be enough. I can kind of work on something else in between time. So as I said, I carried on with those flowers as I did, so they've all had that sort of water treatment, and then a little bit of gesso on them. So yeah, kind of, as I said, I almost wanted the flowers are here, and we're moving out, but she's definitely sort of just blending into the background there a bit too much, so I think shadowing is definitely going to be a must. But I'm putting on my gel medium really quite thickly, just to sort of make sure that it sticks, but that does mean that we will need to just give it time for it to dry, maybe something like that. It needs built up a bit more, but we've got some of our other bits and pieces that we can stick in, so I'm gonna have a little try of that. It's getting there. I do like how textured it is. I like the girl's face, it's just, I don't know, I just don't like the way. Do you know, I once bought stamps when crafting was only on QVC 2 hours a week. and they were lady stamps, and I was like, oh my goodness, they're so elegant, and then they stamped out like that with those lines, and yeah, I've never really got on with stamps that are like that. I really want to put gold thread on this. I can see me having to. Right, as I said, we've also got her dress, or this bit down here that we need to do something with, so can I just save some of these bits and bobs that I have done. Let's just see. Right, so put that there. I'm not overthinking this, to be honest, because I'm not even laying it out to see how it would look. I'm just literally putting it down and sticking it, hoping for the best. We need another one in her hair. I've got at least 3. So these are meant to be shells, because they were like, it's under the sea steampunk theme, that particular kit. So that's what they are. Let's do them so that they're going in different ways. There we go. It's getting there. It's got it, yeah. It's doing something. I do have a lot more flowers as well from the decoupage kit that I could. Not these ones. I've exhausted those ones, but I do have. Actually, I'm just having a look now. Thinking that one of those ones might be quite nice as part of the dress. Let me have a little look. Just quickly fussy cut that out and see how that would work. These, because they're on a nice I can't remember the GSM, but it's quite a lightweight paper, because they are for fussy cutting, and they are collage papers, which is meant to be that lighter weight. They're really easy for fussy cutting. See, oh, actually that would really work, especially if we cut into that. I'm going to end up replacing those bits that we've just done, but if I cut into that so that we can get a little bit of movement, I will knock it back with gesso as well. Let's have a see. I'm thinking that, right, hang on. I'm going to put these down first and then put those little bits on after. So I'm going to get one just behind her there. see, this is the advantage of gel medium, that we do have wiggle room for quite some time. So if I put one there, and I'm going to get another one, I'm going to get a slightly smaller one, I think. And we'll have one just there, and then we'll have the stamped elements. I wonder what Dawn's done. Dawn will be in her element. Well, firstly she set the challenge, so, you know, she knows she's happy. But as you can tell by the fact that she even designed these papers, that she loves her florals. Right, I'm going to put that there. And then that just gives it more of an illusion that we've got a full dress there rather than she's just been cut off at the neck. Right, so we'll put that down. And then we'll put these extra bits round about. I think that looks nice. Got a bit of glue on there, but I'm going to be knocking that with gesso in a second anyway. Yeah, that looks very dress-like. It looks like big, nice big puff sleeves or something. I like it a lot. This is so not my style. There's nothing about this that's particularly me, but I love it. I have got some stray bits of gel medium in places as well, but I'm just gonna be alright with that. I think it'll be fine by the time we've got gesso and bits and bobs. Oh, trying to see, now I'm sitting there thinking possibly little sequins or sparkles. I want gold thread, I want sparkles, and I want something. What will I go for? Right, let's get some of these leafy things in. And as I said, I'm going to have to let this dry probably for a good few hours. So it's currently about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So my daughter will be home just after 3. She comes home herself now, so it's great. It's only a few extra minutes, but it's amazing the difference it makes having an extra 5-10 minutes, because you're not having to get down to the school on time. Right, I'm just going to get some of these slotted in various places just to sort of soften it up, and then I think we're going to need like a very light grey or something just round her, a bit of shadowing going on, and then we'll maybe look at getting some more golds and things in. Not quite happy with that. Let's build up the hair then. Yeah, I've coloured all these bits, I may as well use them. Yeah, so that looks like that might be us. Oh, I don't know. Do I want thread, do I want a sentiment, or do I want sequins? I really don't know. Right, so that is it as it stands, but I have put a huge amount of big wadges of gel medium on there, so they are definitely going to need to dry. So I am just going to very quickly, so it can dry at the same time, dry brush these bits down here ever so slightly. I just want to knock it back slightly, just so it sort of suits the rest of the project, because it's quite, everything else has sort of been knocked back and got these sort of lovely vintage tones, and these, as beautiful as they are, just need to be knocked back to match. I'm just going to get that on there. Okay, I am not going to decide right this second which embellishment I'm going to go for. I'm going to do the shadowing, add my touches of gold watercolour that I've got, and then see where we are then, and then that might help me decide. But part of me was thinking like loops of gold thread coming out from her hair would have been nice as well, but then seeing this I'm thinking sparkles might be quite nice. So yeah, I don't know. We'll find out later. See you soon. Okay, so this has now been drying overnight, well and truly stuck down, nothing's moving. So that's all good. So I want to build up a little bit of shadow around her. I think I'm going to go, I've got a bit of a silvery grey in this palette here. So I've got that, and I've also pulled out my Kuretake Gansey Tabbies more because I want that gold a bit later on, I think. But I want to get the shadowing done first and then see how it's sitting then. So I'm just going to very gradually build up. I know I talked earlier, I'm trying to think. See behind where my hand is, how grey that looks, and that's because of the shadow. And so it is a really great way of elevating your project, is just to get a little bit of shadow. Now I'm not going to get an overly even one because we've got obviously the very textured surface there. Looking at this, I think it's going to take a couple of layers, but hopefully it will just, because I'm actually not watering this paint down very much at all, it's going on quite solid, but because it's so very textured it's finding the grooves, so we're seeing texture but we're not getting a solid colour, which again will suit the softness of the project, but it's maybe not going to give us that huge depth. So I'm going to stick with this silver colour, and I might have to sort of see if I've got a darker colour that we can bring in, but it's just to give that bit of contrast so that she pops, because she's very similar colour tones to what we have done for the background. So I'm just needing to build that up. As I said, I'm most likely going to have to wait for that to dry because it's finding all the crevices, so it's looking really cool from a texture point of view, but building the colour up move my tea, it might be a little bit more difficult. I'm just turning my work. This is another thing, turn your work so it's comfortable, don't try and bend your arm, because that's not going to help. You may as well be comfortable while you work. So possibly, I think, if the brief wasn't watercolours, I would maybe be quite tempted to pull acrylics out at this point, because I could apply them a bit thicker, and I could sort of brush the tops of those, almost like you would do. I could be brushing the top as well as it falling into the creases, so I think it would be easier for me to get my shadows. But it is, I'm looking at it on the screen, and it is sort of building up quite a bit of shadow there, even if it's not quite as dark as I would like it. Let me see what colours, if I move to a slightly, I'm just going to test. Oh, so I've got a black here. I wonder if mix in a little bit of this one as well, whether, oh yeah, that's better. We're getting much darker colour tone now. So yeah, I think that's most likely what I will need. That'll dry a bit, paler as well, but yeah, that's working much better for me now, definitely. Basically I'm wanting the image to pop from the foreground, so I'm needing it to be a lot darker, and that other grey was quite soft, so I think we will probably do a blend of the two to build that up. But actually it's nice the way it's fallen in amongst the creases, it's just adding that a little bit of extra texture. Shadowing takes time. I'm definitely going to have to build up the colour on this between the two paints, so I am most likely now, that's very dark there, never be afraid if you do that, just a bit of water, and you can also just lift it off as well, like that. And then also if we really wanted, we could go in and dry brush with white again as well. So I'm just lifting a bit of grey from the going onto the flower. So yeah, I think what I'm going to do now is just keep going, but pop you on fast forward as I do that, so that it's not too boring and laborious to watch. But yeah, liking the way it's building up. I think that's definitely needing the darker grey. Hoping that you can see how much that's popping now that we've done that. So anyway, as I said, pop you on fast forward and I'll see you at the other side. Okay, so that is all the shadowing done. What difference that makes. It's fab. So, not quite sure where I'm going now, to be honest. I think we're on the home straight. I'm going to start off, because originally I'd kind of thought that I would pick up some of the creases with gold and things, but I'm not sure I want to do that now. So I'm going to start off just doing gold splashes and see what occurs. Hopefully the gold splashes will negate my desire for what do you call it, gems, and then should really have covered my desk a bit there. Then I can go for a sentiment. Let that dry. I might just, I don't know, just sort of catch some of the edges with the gold paint as well. It's lovely stuff, this stuff from Kuretake Ganzi Tambi. It's a watercolor paint, but it's really, really gold. I can't believe I did that. I've splattered it all over my desk, and my desk isn't a proper what do you call it? It's not a proper protector. It's just that it's good for keeping the background bright for filming. So I'll just completely wreck that by adding splashes. Oh yeah, I like that gold in the corner. I think what would have been nice is a little bit of the gold gilding wax just to pick up on some of the texture of some of these elements. But what I am just going to do is sort of try and frame, get a bit of this gold going around, not the entire edge, but I think I'm going to go for this corner up here, like so, and then this. I've not used my black pen, and you know what, I don't think I'm going to either. How very strange. And this corner here, just to help to draw. I've still sort of got the framing effect that I normally do with my black pen, but I'm going to have it with the gold paint and have that a little bit looser. But yeah, I think it just adds a little bit of something. And then, although this is watercolour and it won't dry brush because you have to add water on it to activate it, I'm just going to see if I can catch the edges of some of these flowers as well. And see what that does. And then I think I'm going to, my extra will be one of Dawn's sentiments from her sentiment kits. This dries, when this dries it'll be gorgeous. It's one of those things that it looks great, but when it's dry it's just a whole other level. I'm just catching some of the florals with this as well. Just to give it a bit of richness and a bit of bling. Must order some more of these. There's a couple, these are my Kuretake Ganztambies, I love these, but I need like some of the that's one cool thing about getting paints like these professional grade paints, is you can actually just buy the bits that you're missing. So I could do with a new gold and I could do with a new white, because the white's really opaque as well. Used to always be that one that I did for my splashes, but there we go. I like that. I'm just going to get in, because that is a cog there. You can just about still see. So I'm going to get in. I kind of feel that some of the splatters down here are a bit heavier than I would have liked them, but yeah, it's what it is. I'm quite happy in general. So I'm just going to have a little look through Dawn's sentiments and we'll find something just to stick on. So this is beautiful. We've got lots of bloom sentiments, but I like this one, Happiness Blooms From Within, and I just think that suits our project really, really well. Now probably you should cut this down with a, what do you call it, trimmer, so that it's nice and straight, but no, I'm not going to. To be honest, this is very textured and not very even. Nothing about it is particularly even. I am now going to pull in my black pen though, because I'm going to need to just edge the edges of that. So I'm going to have Happiness. Happiness. See. Happiness Blooms, and then I want this over there, From Within, I think. I'll start faffing now. I kind of want it on her somehow. Oh, maybe I put it there. I kind of want it on here, but it's very stark from there. Yeah, that's maybe there. Okay, happier with that. Just faffing. So when you cut it down, you do end up with sort of white edge. So I am now using my black pen just to take away that white edge, and I think we might have to get some cardboard just to mount this onto. As I said, it's going onto a very, very textured surface, so I think I'm going to grab some cardboard and just stick that down. You don't really need to see that, because there's, yeah, it's nothing I've not done before, especially even in this project. So if you've got this far watching, well done. I have no idea how long this video will be. Hopefully not too long if I've sped bits of it up. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then what I'm going to do is, because that gold is amazing when it's dry, and I'm just going to let that dry naturally. I'm just going to pop that to the side, and then I'll come back on when it's all dry and show you it finished. Okay, so that is my canvas all finished. Yeah, when Dawn gave me the brief, I had no idea where I was going to go and what I was going to do. This is very different from my style, but I love it. I love how textured it is. But yeah, that's us all finished. So please do go and check out to see what our lovely Dawn has done. They are her collage sheets, so I know she will have rocked it. She's always providing lots of inspiration on how to use them. So please do go and check her out. I will be checking her out at 6 o'clock as soon as it goes live. If you have enjoyed it here, please do consider liking and subscribing, and I will be back with some more crafty goodness very, very soon. Okay, take care then, and goodbye.